Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. Due to the dearth of Yang Daily this week, enjoy this Saturday episode. Shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park and Shay Meehan, as well as all our other patrons. Your dedication feeds my own. While Americans argue over whether or not to get rid of the guy who doesn't believe in containing coronavirus, the virus itself is having a field day. We just hit a massive new record in the US of 181,000 new infections in a day. It was below 60,000 a month ago. 69,000 are currently hospitalized, double the amount from a month ago, and 1,100 people are dying of it every day, 400 more than a month ago. This is what happens when the federal government abandons any effort to contain the spread and convinces millions of Americans to do likewise. Meanwhile, Trump is focused on what really matters, undermining democracy, and putting to use his most honed skill in life, frivolous lawsuits. Every judge that has heard one of the lawsuits from Trump's campaign about voter fraud have dismissed them for lack of evidence. Notably, even Trump's own lawyers will not back up Trump's fallacious claims in court because they don't want to go to prison for lying to a judge. However, every time a case is dismissed, Trump's team files a new suit that is almost but not exactly the same. Who's paying for all of this? Well, the American people are paying for the judge's time through taxes and paying for clogging up the courts, which should be hearing real cases. A subset of the more gullible American people are also paying Trump's side of it, as he's been collecting money from his supporters for legal expenses. Another fun caveat: the fine print says that Trump and the GOP can spend the donations on a whole host of things, not just legal fees relating to voter fraud. If you can count on one thing, it's whatever Trump does is ultimately a grift to make him money. The Lincoln Project has also reported that sources inside the White House have told them that Trump is attempting to convince state legislators to select electors for him against the will of the people. This should come as no surprise, though it is still shockingly shameful for America. Equal Citizens, a nonprofit by Lawrence Lessig, has started a petition calling on all legislators to refuse to consider these anti-democratic acts. Please take a moment to follow the link below and add your name. In a tragically amusing turn of events, Parler, the newest fad in social media incubators for conspiracy theorists and neoconservatives, has turned on its creator. One of the conspiracies floating around is that Parler itself is financed by George Soros, which the Parler CEO is frantically trying to squash. Turns out when you breed a rabid group of people who will believe anything, it can backfire. It's still tragic, of course, because ultimately these conspiracy echo chambers hurt all of us, as can be easily seen in the rise of QAnon congressional candidates, or in the aforementioned attacks on democracy. Vala Afshar shared a pretty interesting graph on Twitter yesterday showing the relative inflation or deflation rates of various products and services since 1998. It gives a good sense of the problem as it shows the largest household expenses like healthcare and education, rising by 200%, while the smaller expenses, like electronics and toys, have deflated by about 75%, nowhere near enough to compensate. Thus, the common citizen's buying power continues to erode. Archbishop Desmond Tutu gave a speech endorsing basic income as a means to eliminate poverty, so that's pretty cool. In one of the weirdest twists of 2020, Charles Koch, yes, of the Koch brothers, is now saying that his endorsement of partisan politics was a mistake, that the Republican Party has not embraced his libertarian views, and he's now looking to make inroads with the Democratic Party. I know, right? He's currently trying to work with Democrats on immigration, criminal justice reform, and limiting our involvement overseas. More to the point, he lists his main concerns as finding answers to the big issues of poverty, addiction, recidivism, gang violence, and homelessness, as well as empowering people with the freedom to try and fail, in other words, to innovate. Sound familiar? Guess what all of those issues and a libertarian perspective have in common? UBI. He's also written a new book titled Believe in People, Bottom-Up Solutions for a Top-Down World. That's literally Yang's messaging on UBI. And he says he's looking for a way to unite a diversity of people behind a common goal, something that Yang and UBI are both known for. Not to mention that he claims to want to empower everybody to be able to lobby politicians, exactly what democracy dollars would do. I never thought I would have to utter these words, but Charles Koch could potentially become an ally. Oh god, I threw up in my mouth a little there. But seriously, we need to consider this. He has a lot of money and influence. He could be instrumental in helping to lobby for both UBI and Yang in Republican circles. I think Yang or Humanity Forward should get in contact with him as part of their new lobbying campaign. To be clear, I don't trust him, but it can't hurt to check. Or maybe it can with him, it's hard to say. And finally, speaking of Andrew, in a Politico article detailing Biden's transition team, it says, quote, sources close to the transition have also been floating former Democratic presidential candidate and entrepreneur Andrew Yang's name in recent days for a top post, including Secretary of Commerce or some technology role, end quote. Secretary of Commerce sounds like a pretty damn good position to me from which to promote a UBI. Write or call Joe Biden and his team and let them know it's a good idea. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Sign and share the electors petition, bookmark and share the COVID numbers, inflation-deflation chart, and Yang cabinet news. Encourage Humanity Forward and Yang to reach out to Koch if you think that could help the cause. Don't forget to put in your half hour a day of phone banking or text banking to support the efforts in Georgia. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, or United Way, and don't forget to Yang Daily.